The fifth and the final round began under the discerning eyes of all the population of the Vulcan Empire. The powerful, rich, poor, and middle class. All of them paid their full attention to this last bout of skills that would decide the final victor of this duel. At this moment, Halsey is under extreme stress as he was still unable to accept the fact that Khan, who trained under Throck, was already a Saint Blacksmith in just a year and a half. This revelation by his opponent was simply too mind-boggling. Khan made sure that his words were heard by no one else than Halsey, so even the judges were still under the impression that both the challengers were of equal rank. How did this happen? This is impossible. I have been training in this craft for more than 37 years, and even I am only a semi-saint blacksmith. What kind of freak is Khan? He clearly wasn't even a saint when I first met him that day. He kept questioning himself again and again over and over because he just couldn't wrap his head around this information. What did it mean if Khan was a saint blacksmith? Wouldn't it be enough for Khan to win the final round as well? And what would happen to Halsey if he lost? The entire dwarven race and all the people of the Empire were looking at him as their representative and fully supported him since the first round. But if he lost this duel, his entire life would be completely destroyed as a result. A dwarf blacksmith who lost to a human in a duel. He would be the first one to shame all his ancestors in the history of this empire. On top of it, he joined Torek and had plenty of people who invested in his training. He had made a lot of connections in the past 1.5 years, something that Throck hadn't been able to offer. Thus, he also had a lot to lose compared to Khan, and seeing that his loss was imminent, Halsey was extremely nervous to the point he couldn't even hold his hammer without his hands shaking constantly. But unbeknownst to him, there were billions of people who were in a similar situation as him. Even in the Colosseum, no one is even dared to breathe loudly, cheer for the dwarf, or even discuss anything among themselves. This created a huge mental pressure on people who were eagerly waiting for Khan's loss, wanting to feel good about themselves and had the halo of superiority compared to the human race. The nobles, the Fireborn clan members, the dwarven race people, even Torek and his people. Everything had completely quieted down at this point. Because if Khan won the last round, then Torek will lose the company and everything he built over the past 100 years of his career in this trade. Throck only had his company to lose. But Torek had an entire corporation that not only made weapons but traded in many other sectors. He had 100 times more wealth and influence to lose than Throck. And now all of it was risked because of his overconfidence and just because he wanted to destroy his longtime rival blacksmith. All right then, let's start. Khan suddenly stopped forging and walked into the middle of the arena. I have a favor to ask to the judges, spoke Khan loudly, his voice instantly echoing in the Colosseum. What is it? Asked Master Druvagar. Without wasting a second, Khan looked at Halsey and pointed his left forefinger at him. Let me switch positions with him. The entire audience had their mouths agape, and even the judges were bamboozled after Khan made this request. No one had any idea why he wanted to switch places with his opponent. No! Suddenly, Torek shouted, and at this moment, Khan's subordinates also noticed 6 more surprised faces who seemed to be aware of the fact that he was given trash-quality materials. Out of the 6 other people, 5 belonged to none other than the High Elder's Dwarven Council. It was like that. Torek must have made some inside deal, or the Dwarven Council itself wanted me to lose. Given the fact that they're one of the organizers, they fully had control over the forging materials given to both of us. Thought Khan. He had finally found out the main perpetrators. Although it was the first place he should have looked, Khan's plan was more elaborate and diabolical than just saying the duel was rigged. Khan already predicted that it could be Torek who could be behind it. But the High Elders of the Dwarven Council also being involved was unexpected. Nevertheless, till this very round, he had already set a perfect trap for the main culprits regardless of who they were, and now it was time to expose them in front of the whole empire. Khan didn't care if it was Torek or the whole damn Dwarven Council. He was already well experienced in screwing over authority since his time in Rocco's empire. And he still remembered one of his mottos in this new life, that he will not mess with random innocent passersby. But if someone threw stones at him, he'd throw a mountain on them. Since these people were trying to screw him over for their personal gains, he would over them 10 times more. And boy, Khan was a very vengeful man. All of these thoughts only took a second in real time, and Khan formed another strategy on the spot. Because he was fully capable of dealing with Torek and the Dwarven Council as per his previous plans. But the biggest surprise that he didn't expect in the slightest was the identity of the seventh culprit. Never had he thought that this person would also have joined hands with the people who wanted to see him fail and Throck lose his company. And the final main culprit was none other than Hector Hose Siegfried, the first prince. While everyone around him was befuddled, Khan was inwardly happy because finally, he unveiled all the culprits after his subordinates finally noticed the changes in their faces as soon as he asked to swap positions with Helsi. Unlike others, these 7 people didn't have an expression of surprise but extreme worry since their interests were at stake. Their aghast expressions gave away their involvement in providing Khan with trash-quality materials. If Khan had been hasty, he wouldn't have even been able to find the real culprits. And the biggest one of them all he hadn't even expected. The first Prince Hector was also part of this scheme for some reason. Khan quickly racked up his brain and deduced some possible reasons that could have caused the first prince, who was also one of his master's backers, to take part in this ploy. Don't tell me he... thought Khan, and looked towards Throck sitting under a pavilion. Normal people wouldn't understand the long game. But Khan certainly did after weighing the benefits Hector could achieve in case Khan lost the blacksmithing duel. If he lost, Throck would lose the company and all his assets would be gone as per the bet they made. It was already common knowledge to the whole Vulcan Empire at this point. And because of Khan's actions a year and a half ago when they orchestrated a plan to take out Rogies, the second prince who was now locked up in a cell. Allegedly. It involved getting Hector and Vanessa backing Throck and becoming his official sponsors. Just having a Saint Blacksmith at his disposal had already cemented his follower base and helped him gain tremendous support from influential people around the empire. Hector had already seen through the merits of having a Saint Blacksmith associated with his force. And in case Khan lost, Throck would be penniless soon and then won't be able to recover the same level of respect in the field or create another company anytime soon. Later, Hector could simply extend a helping hand and make Throck work for him instead, with the promise of riches or helping him in restoring his lost reputation. And through planning and schemes, he'd be able to put Throck under his thumb, making him one of his pawns in a few years. This was the only plausible reason that could explain why someone like the first prince had gotten involved in petty espionage. Why was Khan so adamant about this being the main reason? Because if Khan was in Hector's position, he would have done the same. But before the judges could ask more questions, Khan quickly turned his gaze and walked towards the direction of a particular person sitting on the platform above the seats for the judges. Khan stood in front of the Pope himself and quickly kneeled as he pleaded, "Your Holiness, only you can bring me justice." He spoke in the voice of a man who had been greatly wronged. "What do you mean?" asked Demiurge, the Pope, who was slightly taken aback after being brought into the limelight. At this moment, Khan went to the Pope because they were also the part organizers of the duel. But the culprits were Torek, the Dwarven Council, and the First Prince. Among all the people present here, the only person who had authority and prestige above them was the Pope himself. The Dwarven Council had no authority over the people other than the Dwarven race, while the Imperial Prince couldn't do anything other than exerting some authority using the Imperial clan because of his heritage. In the Vulcan Empire, because of its religious structure, the Pope was only below the Emperor. Khan already knew that the Church had nothing to do with this, so they were the best choice to use as a shield and an axe to deal the final blow on his behalf. "The materials I received in this round have been tampered with," said Khan in an obedient tone. "Lies! This human is lying!" Suddenly, one of the High Elders burst out in rage. Khan laughed hysterically in his mind. freewebel.com. "This is a big accusation, young man. You better not be messing with us," said another one of the High Elders. "Prove it," said the Pope with a stern gaze, as if he had no time to spare for any of these small quarrels and had to go somewhere important. Khan simply walked towards his end and threw down the container of materials that he was given for this round. "If the judges would be so kind," said Khan and looked at the Trinity. The Saint Blacksmiths didn't waste another moment and quickly used their auras and senses to quickly check the materials. Druvagar simply pulled the materials and crushed a few metal ores with his bare hands. Ivaldi and Philly did the same with the samples and used their respective methods to check their quality. These materials have been adulterated. Too many low-quality ores have been mixed. Completely unsuitable for forging, spoke Master Philly as he used his Saint Pressure and turned a block of metals and ores into dust within a few seconds. Soon, an argument started from the Dwarven Council and Toric's side that it might have happened by mistake for this round. "Bingo!" said Khan inwardly and right in front of the whole empire that was watching this current predicament. He walked towards his forging and assembly table. "Then what about these?" loudly asked Khan. One by one, he took out 4 objects and placed them in front of the tables. Gasp! Shock! The high elders of the Dwarven Council, Toric and his people, and even Hector had grim expressions. Because what Khan presented in front of the judges at this moment were the materials from the first 4 rounds. Khan purposely said that the materials were tampered with for the last round only when he pleased the Pope, knowing that the Dwarven Council would use the most obvious excuse first. Ivaldi, Druvagar and Philly didn't spare another moment and quickly assessed the quality of these materials too. And instantly, their faces turned furious. Khan, on the other hand, gave a smirk towards Toric, whose forehead was full of sweat already. This final move was something he already planned ahead. Because of his meticulous planning from the very first round, all of the conspirators had fallen into his trap. And now he was awaiting on the most crucial part of the plan that he was expecting: the results. At this moment, everyone in the Empire was clearly aware of how the whole duel was a setup in order to make Khan lose. And the sanctity of this ancient tradition of the Dwarven Blacksmiths was now thrown out of the window to achieve that goal. With this, the whole truth was revealed. Many people had eyes full of disbelief, and everyone became certain of one thing. The entire blacksmithing duel was compromised, and the culprit was the Dwarven Council. And the victim of this ploy, aka Khan Salvatore, was actually the one who goaded and exposed it by himself. Khan planned everything since the first round. He lost it on purpose to make the culprits think that he couldn't differentiate between poor materials and good ones. In second, he won by a big margin as he leveled up his crafted weapon by a whole rank, evidently making them anxious, and thus, he received another batch of trash materials. In the third round, he used mineral transmutation to break down the scythe from the inside after he successfully forged it. At this point, Halsey had 2 wins already. And like greedy foxes who wanted to benefit the earliest, the conspirators sent another batch to confirm that Halsey won the 4th round. But in the 4th round, Khan made a quasi-legendary rank weapon by using all of his trump cards and gifts, making the score 2-2. And because of this result, he subconsciously forced the council to send another set of trash materials for the final round. Because now, they had no choice due to Khan's capabilities he already displayed in Toric. High Elders and Hector were simply afraid to see all their plans failing in the end. And finally, Khan used those materials and previously gathered samples to expose them in front of the whole empire. Boom! At this moment, the judges released their full Saint Pressure and spoke in an infuriated voice. The most sacred rules of the blacksmithing duel that have been practiced since ancient times have been broken, said Ivaldi. An unfavorable situation created for a particular challenger in the duel, so that he'd lose. It's a great crime against the rules of the blacksmithing profession, spoke Druvagar with a look of disgust visible on his countenance. This conduct during this duel has committed the great taboo against the laws of our ancestors and the dwarven race, said Philly as he was barely holding in his anger. Despite their differing personalities and set of beliefs, all the judges shared one thing in common, and that was respecting the laws and traditions of the blacksmithing craft that were passed on by their ancestors since the empire itself was founded. And now, all 3 of the judges were thoroughly infuriated after seeing how rules were broken and the whole duel was nothing but a sham. As per the rules, in case a duel has been tainted, spoke Ivaldi, and the rest of the judges joined together as their loud voices echoed in the entire empire through the projection screens. The blacksmithing duel has been forfeited. An atmosphere of chaos formed over the empire and among the audience. Every class of citizens went into an uproar and many questions were raised by the spectators. But to many, it was already evident that the duel was nothing but a sham, so nobody tried to go against this decision. As for the perpetrators, it was the Dwarven Council who was in charge of providing the crafting materials, and also the High Elders just tried to shirk away the responsibility, saying that it happened only by mistake for the final round. Unlike the judges, the High Elders of the Dwarven Council weren't blacksmiths. They did not follow the creed of competing with skills. Thus, they sabotaged the whole thing to make Khan lose miserably before the competition even began. Thud! Halsey dropped on his knees, his entire being completely shocked and his eyes wide open in disbelief. Because if the duel was rigged from the beginning, that also meant he didn't win those 2 rounds because of his skills but because Khan's materials were of low quality, making his crafted weapons turning inferior to his. No, I cannot accept this. I will not accept this. This can't end up as a draw. I didn't even win those 2 rounds with my own abilities. All of my achievements. They weren't because I was better but because Khan was dealt with a disadvantage, said Halsey. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear it clearly. His current state of denial showed Khan that Halsey was a blacksmith with pride and had a moral code even as his competitor. But he was unaware of how his new mentor, aka Bifurtoric, was a devious person who would do anything to win even if it meant discarding their honor. Forget feeling angry. Many felt pity for Halsey at this point, because his name was also dragged into the mud because of the acts of the Dwarven Council. At this moment, even the Pope is also looking at the High Elders without hiding his scornful expression. Did Demiurges care about the competition being rigged? Hell no. But on the surface, the Church of Hetrax supported Throck, and thus, he had to show this expression of disdain on his face. In his eyes, he cared only about their own image, but since he was appearing on a live broadcast, he had to maintain his just and righteous persona. In another scenario, he might have as well joined the whole arrangement to deepen the ties between the Church and Council for the sake of mutual benefits. I agree with the decision made by the 3 judges. The duel has been forfeited. As for the matters of rigging the duel, the Church and Imperial clan will soon set up an investigation committee, and we will find the true culprits and every single person involved. They will be severely punished by our laws. That I promise you in the name of our great god Hetrax, declared the Pope in front of the audience and the people of the Empire. On the surface, his face was oozing law and righteousness, but in reality he had other plans, because Khan just now gave him the best tool to control the Dwarven Council. Although the Pope talked big about punishing the guilty party, given the position, influence and power held by the Dwarven Council in their empire, he knew that taking any drastic measures against them would do more harm than good. But this also meant who could get them out of their predicament and put a leash on them. As for the matter of rigging the duel, who the hell cared if one man or an entire human race was conspired against? Their opinion didn't matter to the Church or any ruling authority. But this newfound information also gave him a lot of opportunities. In reality, Khan had just presented him with an excuse to suppress the council because after this incident, the High Elders would need a lot of help in correcting their public image. And who better to help them spread lies and reform a person's image in society and on the common populace other than a religious institution that had great importance in their culture? Good. They will have no choice but to side with us soon, thought Demiurges. Meanwhile, many people including the famous dwarven blacksmiths and elven artificers felt dread and fear towards Khan, because this man was too exceptional. All of his achievements happened in such a short time and it was simply too stupefying even if he was trained by a saint blacksmith. If not for the faulty materials, Khan would have easily won this duel. Some people who did not hold anything against the human race as they only valued skills and achievements in their craft openly started praising Khan for his attainment. Some said that he was unlucky and would have officially won the duel, etching his name in the history of their empire as he'd be the first human to ever win a blacksmithing duel against a dwarf. As for the blacksmithing duel being forfeited, it was exactly what Khan wanted. While the duel was nulled and many people were greatly disappointed and some even inwardly happy as they feared a human winning the duel, The human challenger was dancing in joy in his head. Khan already knew of the rules, and the duel getting cancelled seemed the best way for him to benefit from all sides. Because him competing in this duel was due to his intentions to save Thrak. He did it to protect his future prospects in the Empire and also not gain unnecessary attention. If Khan won, there would be too much trouble coming his way instead. Both Khan and Thrak had no interest in Torik's company because his identity as a human would always be a problem even if he won. Khan only wanted to protect his assets, and that was Thrak Oakenshield's weapon forging company, where he had a lot of authority and controlled the flow of money. He wasn't a fool to get mixed into high stakes after several years of experience at this point. In the Rocco's Empire, when Khan won the Emperor's chosen competition, he risked it all because he was going to get a goddamn fiefdom for himself. A very fitting and tremendously helpful place he needed for the future growth. If the circumstances with the Tablet of Arcana hadn't forced him to flee, he would have had a smooth sail in Rocco's Empire till he became a 6th stage saint. But in the Vulcan Empire, the whole battle of skills was only to protect Thrak's reputation and his company. Any more than that would become a huge liability. Nevertheless, screwing over the Dwarven Council and Torik was also important at the same time, because it would deter them from causing trouble for him or Thrak later. And with the duel nulled, the contract would be voided, as it could also be considered a draw, helping Khan achieve a peaceful life while giving him time to grow quietly. This was the best outcome for Khan in every way. As for representing the human race or improving their position in this empire's social structure, Khan couldn't give two shits about it at this point. Throughout the duel rounds, many humans cursed Khan and flung up profanities whenever he lost. Many people saying that he would doom whatever reputation they regained after the imperial decree. Little did they know that it was this very man whose actions led to Rogi's being exposed, the imperial court taking drastic measures, and finally, the emperor being forced to lift the restrictions on the human race to protect the image of his reign and the pride of the imperial clan. If not for Khan, they'd still be treated like animals in a slaughterhouse before he came to this empire. But Khan also didn't want to get into unnecessary trouble. He was neither a hero of justice nor a revolutionary. And even if he wasn't a human, it was the same regardless of the species. The sense of popularity and fame worked very similarly to Earth. You were a hero when you won the battle, or you were a pathetic loser who would be scorned even by your own family when you lost. Khan had already experienced that firsthand in his previous life, since his parents were the prime example of this mentality. So he was well aware of this nature of people, no matter what part of the world they came from or where they stood in society. So because of this result, Khan would save his assets, hold even a bigger influence by showcasing his skills as a blacksmith, and not piss off the wrong people in order to maintain his background. After many proclamations by the Pope, the matter was finally settled and this empire-wide event finally ended. "It's time," said the Pope as he signaled his allies and vanished from the Colosseum. While people were leaving the Colosseum, Khan was having a chat with Thrak in a room as they too prepared to leave. Just then, a brown-bearded dwarf walked through the door, standing in front of him and Thrak. Thud! This dwarf suddenly kneeled on the ground. His expression was full of loss and helplessness. "I'm sorry, master. I failed you," spoke the dwarf, whose eyes had tears welled up as he spoke in a stuttering tone because his heart was heavy with guilt. This dwarf with a haggard and miserable face was none other than Helsi. Thrak and Khan faced Helsi, who had a miserable and crestfallen look on his face. Based on their senses as saints, they already noticed his presence but didn't show any hostility on their faces. "And why are you here?" asked Thrak in a serious voice. "I just found out that it was Master Torik who messed with the duel by joining hands with the High Elders. I had a big argument with him, and now I have left his tutelage," spoke Helsi with a guilty expression. "And now that your new master has thrown you out like a dog, you want to return to my master?" asked Khan with a suspicious gaze. "No, it's not that. I just wanted to explain things with the master first, about why I left back then," he said. "Shut it. I don't want to hear anything. All I know is that you betrayed me right when I needed you the most. And now you think that making some excuse will make me forgive you?" shouted Throck as his blood boiled in rage after remembering those moments. When he was dealt with a low blow, even his most trusted disciple from the past 3 decades abandoned him and joined the enemy side. This was a memory that was etched in his mind. "No, I'm not deserving of your forgiveness." Halsey looked up while still kneeling on the floor. 2 big teardrops poured down on his cheeks. Soon, Halsey started citing his end of the story and explained why he did what he did. To summarize, Halsey was a talented blacksmith even before Throck took him in as one of his disciples. He had his aspirations, his talent came through a lot of hard work. He lived and breathed for this craft, unlike others who only wanted fame and make riches out of it. Under Throck's mentoring, his talent reached a whole new level, and soon, Throck became an idol for him in many ways, and Halsey wished to even surpass Throck one day. But after Throck's beef with Rogues happened, it also scared him to his core. Even someone like Rogues couldn't kill Throck because he was a famous person in the Empire. But what about innocent bystanders like him who lacked both strength and standing? He was a common citizen with no connections or backing. A blacksmith with no skills or abilities to fight against someone. Hell, he couldn't even protect himself. People like Halsey often died as a medium to set an example or collateral damage in the feuds of the powerful. On top of it, Halsey had to look after his parents, his wife and children. He wasn't someone who could afford to risk his life when many people depended on him. Because as things appeared back then, Halsey felt that his life would be forfeited or he'd be ruined sooner or later. Thus he became even more afraid for his life because messing with an imperial prince was no different than a death sentence. Sniff. Sniff. "I'm sorry, master. I am a complete failure, both as a blacksmith and as a dwarf of honor. Instead of standing on your side in turbulent times, I ran away like a coward. I have repaid your kindness with nothing but betrayal. Someone like me doesn't deserve any redemption," spoke Halsey as the tears poured like raindrops. Although he was forced to betray his master due to the circumstances back then, it didn't change the fact that he had broken the trust Throck had in him. "After this, I will quit blacksmithing and leave Nidavellir. These hands of mine do not deserve to hold a hammer again. My feet do not deserve to walk into a forge again. This part of my life is over," said Halsey and got up on his feet. "Farewell, master. Thank you for everything for me, even though I have only let you down," he said and wiped off his tears. Even Khan could see the conflict in his eyes. Grown men did not cry until they could no longer bear the suffering. This was something Khan also experienced in his previous life on the day when he committed suicide. He had been completely broken down because of his miserable circumstances. "At least try to talk it out with him," said Khan to Throck. "You want me to mend differences with this traitor? You think I'm a forgiving person, boy?" retorted the old dwarf. "This is not my place to speak. But you're no saint either, old man. Remember the first day we met?" Khan rebuked and continued with a somber expression. "Although I have a habit of repaying kindness 10 times and enmity 100-folds, sometimes circumstances force you to do things that go against your morality and creed." He spoke to Throck. "Also, you too should have swallowed that insult by Rogues and thought about the people who work for you. You also forced him to make that choice. You said he was your most prized pupil, but you did not think of the consequences before you burst out in rage." He reminded the old blacksmith. Throck was a person with anger issues and a loudmouth back when Khan met him. It's not like he's entirely guilty, but he isn't innocent either. But Halsey was never part of the plot set by Torek and the Dwarven Council and still adhered to the rules of smiting and teachings you taught him. Throughout the duel, he only wanted to win with his own skills and talent. I never sensed any hostility or malicious intent from him either. He too was a victim just like you back then. Think of this whole development as him being lost for a while," iterated Khan. "All right, I will leave you two alone. Talk it out or kill each other. That's up to you both." Khan then walked out of the room and closed the door. Some people deserved a second chance, unlike many, but forcing his own opinion on Throck wasn't a good thing either. Whatever happened from here, whether Halsey gets his chance at retribution or not would be decided by the duo of former master and pupil. Yawn. Khan yawned and decided to leave the Colosseum. Just then, A mysterious red, hooded figure appeared in front of him along with a group of people. Khan was quickly taken aback because the group of people included Vanessa, Hector, and the hero's party. "Khan Salvatore, you have been summoned," spoke this hooded figure as he revealed his face. An old and bald fireborn revealed his face. "Careful, boy. He's a fifth-stage saint," warned Rathnar. "By whom?" asked Khan as he spoke in a scared and bewildered voice to maintain his appearance of a weak human. To his question, this old fireborn replied in an authoritative voice, "The Emperor." As soon as this fifth-stage saint revealed that the Emperor himself summoned Khan, the latter was rooted on the spot, completely flabbergasted. This was something he hadn't seen coming from any possible angle. Then he looked at the members of the group. It included Vanessa and Hector, the two Imperial Scions. And there were 8 members of the hero's party, including the hero of fire himself. Do they know? He wondered after looking at the lineup, including this person in the front who was a fifth-stage saint. "Don't panic, boy. You make a wrong move and they might get even more suspicious. First, try to inquire what this summon is about," said Rathnar in an observing tone. The old fireborn in front of Khan was a fifth-stage saint, a being who could kill him before he even moved a muscle. "May I ask what is it about?" queried Khan in a submissive voice. "Shut up and come along. His Majesty summoning you is a great honor to you," spoke the fireborn as he slightly released his saint pressure. "Maybe Lord Father is impressed with your performance, human. Don't ask unnecessary questions," spoke Hector, hiding his hatred towards Khan. Because the duel was forfeited, it greatly damaged his future plans. And the main cause of this was Khan, a pesky and weak human. "When the time is right, I'll kill him with my own hands for making me suffer such a huge loss," thought Hector inwardly. Vanessa, on the other hand, simply nodded from behind the old fireborn, signaling Khan to comply. But to an observant man like Khan, he quickly noticed that Vanessa was somehow reluctant to have him come with them. "Tag along. You have a divine ability that can help you escape whenever you get a chance," said Rathnar in Khan's mind. "Apologize for my discourteousness, my lord," spoke Khan and quickly summoned his usual black and gray long coat, which instantly turned his image from an unkempt and untidy blacksmith to an heir of some noble clan. The aura of class and regality oozed out of Khan as soon he equipped the attire that Albestros made using the Invimarak hide he had been wearing since he was in Verlassen. His sudden change in appearance also surprised many members of the hero's party, because now he looked no different than someone of equal standing as them. To their surprised gazes, Khan casually replied, "What? I wanted to look presentable in front of His Majesty." The next moment, the old fireborn took a square-shaped brown artifact and activated it. All of them were quickly enshrouded by a red barrier, and the following moment, all of them disappeared from the spot. Swoosh! A few dozen kilometers away, their figures reappeared inside a grand hall of a ginormous worship. This is the church's worship given to the hero's party," spoke Hector as soon as he saw the sigil and the crew operating the worship. "Why are we here instead of the warships owned by the Imperial clan?" wondered Vanessa in her mind. But since the man in red robes was a trusted figure of the Emperor, she and Hector did not dare question unnecessarily, because currently, this old man had a bigger prestige than both of them. Soon, an hour passed and the capital borders were already crossed a while ago. "Where are you taking us?" asked Hector as found something odd happening. Because this old fireborn said that they were summoned by the Emperor, none of them brought any of their saint-rank guards or security with them. Even their departure with this old fireborn wasn't known to anybody. Khan, with his eidetic memory, remembered where he had seen this old fireborn before. But instead of replying to Hector's question, this old fireborn gave a nod to Axel and his group. Ching! 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 The very next moment, all the members of the hero's party quickly distanced themselves from Vanessa, Hector, and Khan as they encircled the trio in seconds, and now, the three of them were trapped inside a pentagram-shaped suppression barrier. "Arg!" groaned Khan as he was instantly forced to kneel, while Vanessa and Hector fared no better because of this sudden move. "What the hell are you doing?" shouted Vanessa as she quickly released her aura, trying to break through the barrier. But the next second, she retracted it as soon as she thought of Khan, who would die because of her saint pressure. Hector and Vanessa loudly asked questions to this fifth-stage saint, but their words weren't audible outside the suppression barrier. 3 hours passed, and they traveled over 5,000 kilometers away from the capital Awakens. Finally, they stopped in an unknown grassland, completely secluded from any civilization for more than 50 kilometers. Soon, the trio was teleported outside the warship. But this time, there was no suppression barrier. However, the hero's party quickly surrounded them, and the fifth-stage saint took an artifact. He started recording this whole scene. "I believe you can handle it from here," he said to Axel. "You may leave. Tell the Pope that we will accomplish our mission after I receive the signal," replied Axel, who was donning his usual red and black armor. Without replying, the old Fireborn quickly took off with the warship and departed towards the capital. "What the hell do you think you're doing, you miscreants?" shouted Hector as his eyes revealed the rage filled in them. This time, the members of the hero's party that also included Azarog, who was a fourth-stage saint, had prideful expressions. Their look towards Hector, Vanessa, and Khan hinted that they didn't care whether they were offending the imperial prince and princess. "Apologies, Lord Hector. Things have taken a troublesome route," said Axel as he snickered. Boom! Boom! One by one, all the members of the hero's party revealed their saint pressures as they revealed their hostile killing intent towards the trio. "Don't you get it, you dim-witted moron? This place," spoke Axel as he too redirected all of his murderous aura towards Hector, "is your execution ground." A few hours later, inside the imperial palace where the imperial trial was once held, a figure of a hooded fireborn in red robes suddenly appeared. "What is it, Advisor Eichbach?" asked heavy host Siegfried, the emperor of the Vulcan Empire. "Your Majesty, we're in a great emergency," shouted this fireborn and took off his hood. "The hero's party has kidnapped Prince Hector and Princess Vanessa," shouted this fireborn as he revealed his shining like sun bald head to the emperor. This was the very fireborn who left Khan, Vanessa, and Hector with the hero's party few hours ago. This old fireborn was one of the 4 advisors of the emperor. One who also partook in the imperial trial and actually backed Vanessa during the trial when she revealed Rogi's deeds in front of the whole empire. "What?" shouted Javi, his eyes revealing his bewilderment. Without wasting another moment, the advisor named Eichbach took out an artifact and a holographic video of the hero's party surrounding Hector, Vanessa, and Khan in the sky while revealing their hostile intentions appeared in front of the emperor. "I just received a secret transmission from our spies. The hero's party somehow managed to kidnap both of them. Your Majesty, they've gone rogue. I think they want to kill them," he bellowed with a gloomy expression. Boom! Javi did not hold back and quickly revealed his intense saint pressure of an 8th-stage saint. For the first time since he became the emperor, someone openly tried to harm his children. "Why?" he asked hurriedly. "Your Majesty, I don't know, but we don't have much time to assemble our forces. We must leave quickly or it will be too late," said Eichbach. "Where?" asked Javi without a second thought since both of his children's lives were at risk. "The northern plains," replied Eichbach. "But if we leave through a warship, it will take us hours," spoke the old advisor. "We don't need that. Let's go," spoke Javi, and soon, a massive bird-like entity made of blistering flames that were expelled out from his body amassed in between them. This entire broke through the ceiling of the imperial palace, quickly alerting the royal guards. But Javi had no time to spare and inform them of the situation. He was the strongest person in the entire empire. He was fully capable of protecting himself. Boom! Boom! Multiple shockwaves were released as Javi and Eichbach boarded this bird-like creature that broke the sound barrier because of its tremendous velocity. In just 10 seconds, they were already out of the Imperial clan's lands. "Those bastards! I'll kill everyone if anything happens to my children," spoke Javi to himself. Within an hour, Javi and the advisor appeared in the middle of the northern plains as this bird entity traveled at a supersonic speed, while completely protecting the passengers with its aura. Terrifying. He didn't even use his bloodline, and just this creature created from his body's flames is enough to burn down the capital itself. Thought Eichbach as he shuddered in fear. So far, no one had seen Javi's peak strength after he became an 8th stage saint just a few years ago. What's this? Didn't you say they're at the central region of the northern plains? Asked Javi as he looked around the open lands of this region. This area called the Northern Plains had no fertile soil and environment suitable for living for normal people within 1,000 kilometers of the area because of a battle between a god-beast and the emperor of the old generation 600 years ago, leaving this place with nothing but barren lands that could not grow a single plant life after the fight. I don't sense anyone except the two of us in 800 kilometers, said Javi after activating his peak senses. Because of their fast-traveling ride, he could not do so before, but now that he did, Javi couldn't sense Hector or Vanessa at all. Because they're not here at all. Shing! Boom! Before Javi could react to this sudden arrival of another individual, over 1,000 different pillars of white light erupted at set distances within all of the span of the northern plains. Each of these pillars was a couple of kilometers in width, and their height rose to more than 15 kilometers, around 50,000 feet, high in the sky. And finally, at that height, all these ginormous pillars started connecting their lights in different directions, their speed so great that it only took 10 seconds before all of the ends of the bright pillars extended and connected to each other like spiderwebs in the sky. Thick layers of impenetrable barriers formed on top of this magical formation, forming 1,000 kilometers perimeter barrier that isolated everything from the outside. Arg! Bellowed Javi as his body was greatly suppressed and his mouth started throwing up blood in succession. The ancient flame killer formation? Isn't it majestic? Asked the new arrival with a smug expression on his face that floated in the sky like standing on the solid ground 5 kilometers away from Javi. In his hand was a legendary rank artifact with the insignia of the Church of Hetrax. Eichbach had already appeared behind this figure, who had a calm and collected expression. What's the meaning of this? Are you trying to commit treason? Demiurge, said Javi as he looked at the Pope, who suddenly appeared out of nowhere, evading even the senses of an 8th stage saint like him using a mysterious artifact. It took us 50 years to set this ancient formation here without anyone noticing. But since the northern plains was nothing but full of barren lands, the security here was non-existent. And to set up this flame killer formation, the only suppression barrier that can prohibit the Imperial Fireborn blood from activating their primordial bloodline at full capacity. We made a lot of sacrifices. Finally, I'm relieved to see it being used, said Demiurges, revealing unnecessary information instead of directly responding to the Emperor's question. And now, he looked at Javi, whose chest and stomach convulsed because of the effects of the suppression barrier while he kept throwing up blood again and again. Demiurges then declared with an elated smile, "You will be its first victim." The entire area of the northern plains that spanned 1,000 kilometers in total perimeter was now completely isolated from the outside world, while only 3 saints remained inside. "What are you trying to do, Arlem? Where are my children?" asked Javi in a thunderous voice. "Ha! How uncommon to see you care about the lives of your children. Don't worry. They're being guarded by the Heroes Party in the middle of the eastern grasslands. But even I can't tell for how long they'll stay safe," he replied in an insidious tone. Javi was thoroughly infuriated at this point. He came here quickly without a second thought, without informing his forces, because he feared for his children's lives. But he didn't expect that one of his most trusted aides had already joined hands with the Pope. "You, Advisor Eichbach, why? Were you also part of this too from 50 years? Asked Javi with a rage-filled expression. Eichbach was the imperial advisor since the time his father reigned as the emperor. Why did you side with the church? You were my father's most trusted aide. Why did you betray me? He asked Eichbach. Although it looked like Javi was greatly disheartened by this betrayal, in actuality, he was just stalling for time while barely containing the backlash on his body and trying to adapt to this suppression. A loyalty bound by soul oath is no loyalty, Javi. It was your father who took advantage of my fealty to the throne and made me accept soul oath. But afterward, He basically turned me into a slave of the imperial family, making me cover up his failures and the wanton massacres he caused in the name of eradicating rioters. That is why I chose to betray the imperial clan," revealed Eichbach, his tone filled with disgust as he recalled the previous emperor, Havi's father. Havi did not show any expression of disbelief, as if he too was aware of this fact since long. There were no righteous rulers. Even the kindest monarch would have to bloody his hands in order to maintain peace in the empire. He was no exception because he too ruined the fate of the human race for the sake of maintaining his reign intact during the turbulent times. "Then why aren't you dead yet?" asked Havi, completely unshaken by this information. "Because the soul oath ritual was performed by me. I obviously know the way to undo it," replied Demiurge instead. "It was when you became the emperor, I granted him freedom in exchange for spying on you. And given his hatred towards the imperial family, he gladly joined our ranks," said Demiurge. "Thu!" Havi spat out another mouthful of blood. He could feel the flow of blood in his body slowing down, greatly diminishing his strength to a degree that he now possessed power comparable only to a 6th-stage saint. He tried to reveal his strength, but his body greatly received backlash instead. For someone of his rank, losing 2 ranks in strength meant losing around 28% of your total combat power. And this was when he wasn't even engaged in a battle. As for how much he'd be suppressed when the fight broke out, even he couldn't predict at the moment. "So are you ready to die?" asked the Pope as he folded both arms behind his back. "Kill me? Heh!" said Havi in a mocking tone. "Ha ha! Ha ha ha!" He laughed hysterically. "Just with you too? Although I'm suppressed, I can easily kill a 5th-stage saint and a 6th-stage saint. And both of you are very weak because of your class," said Havi in a tone filled with disdain. His title as the strongest person in the empire wasn't just for show. But he wasn't an idiot to blindly charge and try to kill them. He wanted to gauge the opponent's tricks first because a moment of negligence would cost your life in a battle. "Oh, that would indeed be the case," replied Demiurge. "But you're not fighting us, you're fighting them," he said with a carefree expression. Boom! 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 3 massive bursts of energy exploded in 3 different directions. Each one was at least 20 kilometers away from Havi. Yet because of their power levels and ranks, this gap was no different than a few footsteps for them. Havi could clearly see these 3 hooded figures in white and red even from this far distance. For someone from the earth, Havi was already in the realm of gods and he had yet to reveal his real strength. Without standing at a ceremony, these 3 figures who had perfectly hidden themselves using the same artifact as Demiurge took their hoods off and finally revealed their real identities. "Long time no see, your majesty," spoke one of these fireborns who seemed to be a pugilist/brawler class individual. But the next moment, Havi was completely shocked as soon as he recognized him. "The last time I appeared to the outside world, your father had just become the emperor," said the second figure who held a double-bladed spear in his left hand. How are you still alive?" asked Havi as he recalled the real identity of the second fireborn. "The Hose Siegfried bloodline is indeed worthy to lead our empire. In just 4 decades, he already became an 8th-stage saint. Even the 6 fireborn clans can't compete against the imperial family's bloodline." Finally, the third figure spoke who had a shield and a sword, revealing his knight class. Havi was flabbergasted again, because this person was already a great figure in the history of the Vulcan Empire. "How? You were supposed to be dead over a century ago." Havi kept questioning as he could not believe what he was seeing. Given his bloodline effects, he could easily take down the 2 traitors in front of him. But now, these 3 people who were hidden all this time, they were someone even he had to be worried about because of their identities and skills. Because every single one of these 3 individuals who was supposed to be dead a long time ago was once the holy champion of the Church of Hetrax in their respective eras. But the most threatening part wasn't their titles but their ranks. Because every single one of these new enemies was a 7th-stage saint. Havi still had a perplexed expression as he gazed at the 3 saints who revealed their malevolent aura directed at him. All 3 of them, were the supposedly deceased holy champions of the Church of Hetrax. The first one died 30 years ago. Havi himself attended the grand funeral. The second was supposed to have died during a fight at the southern border against the army of the Rakos Empire close to 50 years ago. And the last one died during the previous empress and his grandmother's reign more than 90 years ago. But not only all of them turned out to be alive, but they were also seventh-stage saints, surpassing their previous rank before their supposed deaths. Previously, Havi thought that this treason was planned when he became the emperor, but now, it looked like all of this was planned way long ago, even before his father was the emperor. At this moment, Demiurge revealed a coy smile, feeling proud of himself. This was exactly the hidden method the church had which Demiurge mentioned when all the top-ranking members had gathered for the annual congregation last year. The Pope had declared his intentions to plot and kill the emperor after the incident with Rogis and the imperial decree where thousands of powerful figures from the church were involved in the crimes against the human race. As a result, many important figures of the church were hunted down and killed by the imperial clan. On the surface, it looked like the emperor was punishing evil to the masses. But in reality, it was the political move to tip the balance in his favor in the name of enforcing justice. During the congregation, it looked like it was the main reason why the Pope had finally lost and decided to commit treason to the majority of the members of the church. But the whole treason itself was something planned way ahead in reality. Havi looked at the 3 seventh-stage saints in 3 different directions who surrounded him from 20 kilometers afar. Donatello Stravini. He spoke as he looked at the Fireborn with the purple glowing double-bladed spear. Leonardo Wright. He said as he glanced at the Knight-class Fireborn with a shield and a sword. Raphael Brockster. He mumbled as he looked at the Brawler Glass Saint. Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael. All 3 of them were the holy champions of their times. The strongest warriors of the church that even the imperial clan had to acknowledge. "Tell me something. Since when did you plan this?" asked Havi as his body finally managed to adapt to this 1,000-kilometer-wide suppression formation. "Do not think so highly of me. I only followed the instructions of my predecessors after I became the Pope a century ago. After the Great War in the Rakos Empire where the 3 seventh-stage saints killed the emperor 100 years ago and overtook the empire, the church also decided to groom their champions in case we needed to do the same in the future," revealed the Pope in a carefree tone. All these people who had the potential to become 7th-stage saints and had absolute loyalty only to the church had their deaths disguised in the eyes of the public. And the church had been secretly nurturing them with all of the resources and means we had. "Feel proud of yourself, Havi. You were the only emperor who forced our hand to make them all reveal themselves," he said, and then looked at the old advisor. He quickly handed him the mysterious artifact he was holding. "You may leave," spoke Pope to Eichbach. "Where do you think you're going?" asked Havi. Because having another fighter on their side was helpful in times of emergency. Yet Demiurges told Eichbach to leave. Someone has to lead the Imperial clan and the Fireborn clans in different directions. Nobody knows you're here, and I'll make sure that no one is prepared to defend against the Church's forces when they attack the Imperial clan. "We carefully planned everything, Your Majesty," said Eichbach with a mocking tone and disappeared from the flame killer formation using the artifact given by Demiurge. At this moment, Havi was indeed trapped from all sides, and he understood that soon. A fight was inevitable as he was slowly recovering his strength. "Then tell me one thing, why go this far? The deal I proposed with the Hero of Fire and Vanessa's marriage would have greatly helped you without shedding a single drop of blood or risking the lives of your people," he asked with a somber expression. "That was indeed a good deal you offered me all those years ago. But the reason why we chose to go this route wasn't because of you, but because of the Hero of Fire himself. Your arrangement wouldn't have worked because of his nature," spoke Demiurge with a stern gaze. "What do you mean?" asked Havi with a curious countenance. "Ha ha! You don't even know his real personality or his origins. Yet you were ready to sacrifice your daughter in order to protect her from the 6 Fireborn clans. But instead, you ended up condemning her to even a worse fate," laughed the Pope loudly as if he was looking at a fool. In the following seconds, he took out a recording artifact and activated it. 3 minutes later, Javi was flabbergasted and also terrified after Demiurge revealed Axel's deeds that they had filmed without the latter having no knowledge of it. The Emperor had an ashen expression after watching what kind of person Hero of Fire truly was. Previously, he hadn't inquired or put a tail on Axel to show his good faith regarding the deal he made long time ago. But because of it, he had no idea what kind of monster Axel was in reality. He isn't a human, is he? Asked Javi with a gloomy face. He is, well, not entirely. The world he came from is a very unique one. And because of his lineage, God Hetrax chose him. Let me tell you something. Among the new generation of summoned heroes, Axel is the only one, said the Pope as his loud voice reverberated in the open desolate lands of the northern plain. Who can kill the demon god? Demiurge openly declared that Axel had the potential to even defeat the demon god, the very entity all the chosen heroes were summoned to kill in Vantria. But no one had succeeded in the past 3,000 years, thus very being. Yet, the Pope spoke confidently that the new hero of fire would certainly be able to do the job as soon as he became a demigod. Although Axel has the potential, he still needs time to become a demigod. And after that, he might as well even surpass someone like the 8th hero of darkness, 6th hero of space, 5th heroine of lightning, Emperor Rathnar of the Rakos Empire, the 3 living archangels and the last remaining elder dragon, Balteras. He will be able to become stronger than all these untouchable legendary figures one day. Spoke Demiurge vehemently as if he could already see the bright future. We will have Vanessa marry Axel, and since your daughter will be wed to him, he will have a legit claim to the throne as well. Later, we will take over the empire and then make him the emperor on the surface. Since he's the chosen hero of our god Hetrax, people will come to accept him as the new ruler very soon. The Pope revealed his intentions. As for the Fireborn clans, once you're dead, they will look for their own survival and eventually join us after we reveal our 3 7th stage saints. He iterated. Aren't you being too overconfident? Asked Javi with a contemptuous gaze. The previous emperor of the Rakos Empire was only a human in the end despite being an 8th stage knight. He had no bloodline-related abilities that raised his battle strength. Even with your big cannons, I'm fairly capable of facing all 3 of them myself if I use my bloodline. It seems reckless of you to not consider that fact, said Javi as if he was still looking down on his opponents. But truth be told, he was trying to probe them first and get the overly chatty Pope to reveal some more information by trying to instigate him. My, did you really think we were that ignorant? Smirked the Pope. We went to great lengths to prepare everything from a century ago. Everything was going to fall into order after your father's death. But things took an unexpected turn in the past 3 decades. Because you're even a bigger nuisance and harder to kill, compared to how easily we finished off your father and elder brother. Boom! Without even waiting for another moment and thinking about the backlash on his body, a massive burst of fire exploded from Javi's body and spread across 5-kilometer radius as soon as Pope mentioned his father and brother. What did you say? Shouted the Emperor in a tyrannical voice that sent shockwaves in the surrounding. Demiurge, on the other, had retreated 10 kilometers far from him in a second. He still maintained that smug smile as he riled up Javi, whose body was now covered in flames, while the surrounding area turned into a large pit of fire akin to a volcano. You really don't know anything. Did you think this whole plan was orchestrated just for you? No, it was for the entire Imperial clan. Just that we had to alter a few things here and there. He replied in an elated voice. It took us decades to weaken the previous emperor's body through many methods. Unlike you, he was a devotee of our god Hetrax. Thus he visited the church very often. Through many interactions and feasts we held for him, we slowly poisoned him. And finally, when his health dwindled, we weakened him even more in the name of curing his condition. Your father was a 7th stage saint, but he couldn't even lift his hand in his final days. Just achieving that took us over 20 years, said Demiurge gleefully. After his demise, we targeted your elder brother, Vili, but we couldn't use the same method. However, the Elven Empire's attacks on the western border presented us a great opportunity as he went there to lead our forces. He grinned. You bastards! Don't tell me. shouted Javi as his eyes were wide open with shock. Yes, it was us who contacted their forces and revealed the Crown Prince's location as well as how to infiltrate the area he was staying in. All I can say is that he did put up a good fight despite only being a 4th stage saint back then, replied the Pope without the slightest hint of guilty consciousness. They even joined hands with the enemy empire to kill Javi's elder brother, betraying their motherland just so they could cripple the imperial family and take control over the empire amidst the chaos. But you and that cunning mind of yours, you married the heiresses of the 2 strongest fireborn clans and even married a princess of the neighboring empire to stabilize the whole situation. That was when we had no choice but to delay our plans. He spoke. You killed my father and brother. And that poison, Javi stuttered. Yes, it was the Church of Hetrax who provided those 2 fireborn clans with that poison. But instead of targeting you, those morons used it to kill that human wife of yours, said the Pope as he unveiled one secret after another. Why was he revealing all this information like an idiot? It was because he wanted Javi to lose his calm and get enraged to the point he'd lose his sanity as they engaged in a battle soon. Sometimes breaking your enemy's mind can lead you to a swift victory. It was me who told you about them being the guilty party. And look what you did. You traded your daughter's fate in order to protect her life by joining hands with me, the one who played a part in her mother's death. Ha ha ha, laughed Demiurge loudly. Javi was losing all of his rationality as he found the truth about the deaths of his family and his true love. The Church has ruined his entire life just to become the sole ruler of the empire. He fell into their diabolical plans and even ruined Vanessa's life thinking he was doing it for her own sake. Like I said, we did not come here unprepared. Finally, the Pope suddenly revealed his own aura and Javi's expression turned grim. Because just now, Demiurge revealed their final trump card as he revealed his real rank at this moment. As if the previous situation wasn't precarious enough, the Emperor was now facing for 7th stage saints. While Javi was entrapped in an ancient formation while being surrounded by 4 7th stage saints in the desolate and barren lands of the northern plains, the middle of the eastern grasslands had a similar scenario where his children aka Hector and Vanessa along with Khan were surrounded by the 8 members of the hero's party. The trio had anxious expressions as they were surrounded by enemies who did not hide their hostile intent from all sides. Take this. This will protect you in case a fight starts, spoke Vanessa as he handed Khan an artifact. This exchange was noticed by Axel and his countenance turned furious, but he quickly hid his malicious intent. The very next moment, he took a golden cross-shaped artifact and quickly activated it. A pillar of white and blue aura rose and ascended high in the sky at a rapid pace. Within just a few seconds, a massive dome that spread over 50 kilometers in radius came to be. Before the trio could react to what just happened, this dome turned invisible. There's no point, Princess. The space is sealed in 50 kilometers. Apart from me, the one who holds the artifact, no one else can leave. Unless you kill me, there's no way you can escape, spoke Axel with a smug smile on his face as he folded both of his arms together. You're after us, right? He has nothing to do with it. Let him leave, shouted Vanessa. As if they will let a witness leave, said Khan, who stood a few meters behind her. System, is the space around here sealed? He queried. Yes. Teleportation scrolls would not work under this dome. However, with the host's attainment in the dimensional law divine ability and his current rank, the host can leave this place anytime he wishes using the dimension void crack, reported the system. I see. If he willed it, Khan could instantly leave using the dimensional void crack just with a thought. But that also meant risking his identity being exposed to the hero's party. On top of it, he still didn't know why or how he got entangled in this. Why was he added to the group of people to be kidnapped? Before, Khan thought that the hero's party or the Emperor possibly knew about his real identity. But from the looks of it, this was actually a plot to trap the Imperial Science. As for the truth about his background, nobody seemed to have a single clue. Means there is another reason why I got caught in this situation, he thought inwardly. However, Khan couldn't just leave, because although he could escape using the true dimension, Vanessa couldn't. She was his friend, and Khan never left his allies to die, whether it was other living people or even his own generals in Omega. Thus, he decided to stay and also get a hint about the happenings he was completely unaware of. Plus, the hero's party members seemed to be looking forward to a fight. While Khan was lost in thoughts, Axel receives a transmission through a communication artifact. Finally, they've trapped the Emperor. We're good to go, he declared with a content smile. What do you mean? Asked Hector, who had his eyes wide open. Ha ha ha, it's just as you heard. We let you live till now only because we wanted to make sure your father fell into our trap while trying to rescue you too. One could say that both of you were our bargaining chips. And now that your father has been trapped, there is no reason to keep you alive, replied Axel as he snickered. Now, spoke Vanessa as she looked at Khan. He quickly activated the artifact given by her, and a yellow-colored crystalline barrier instantly appeared around him, completely encapsulating his body. Boom! Boom! With two loud bursts of aura, one yellow while the other being crimson-red, Hector and Vanessa took out their swords as they revealed their battle intent. Hector nodded at Vanessa as he revealed his rank of a second-stage saint. She nodded back and brandished her sword, which instantly caught fire. At this moment, both the Imperial Scions let go of their differences and formed a temporary alliance given the perilous situation. Meanwhile, Khan was forced back over a kilometer distance as he was protected from the shockwaves of the aura explosions full of saint pressure. However, nobody paid attention to him as their targets were the Imperial Scions. To them, Khan was only a blacksmith with no fighting capabilities, and he couldn't even leave the barrier even if he wanted to. So nobody paid attention to this newborn chick. All the figures suddenly ascended in the sky using their saint pressures and surrounded each other at reasonable distances of a couple of kilometers. Unlike Javi, both of them were not under some sort of suppression barrier. And right before Khan's eyes, a fight broke out between the members of the Heroes Party and the Imperial Scions, each one facing 3 members on their own. Khan then looked at the 2 individuals who still hadn't made a move. Axel and the black-armored Trident user behind him. These 2 were the strongest members of the Heroes Party but only decided to watch from a distance for now. A fierce battle between 2 melee-class fighters and mages, tanks and archers took place in a 10 kilometers region. But as time passed, both of them were suppressed because although they were strong, both the Imperial Scions were outnumbered. Looks like we have no choice, spoke Hector as he glanced at Vanessa, who was fighting on the other side. With a loud bang, 2 large fire pillars rose in the sky, and in just 20 seconds, 2 transformed figures appeared in front of everyone after the fire subsided. Holy shit! Khan couldn't hide his amazement as he was taken aback after seeing the bloodline transformations of the Imperial family. Hector's height was multiplied by twice while his waving fiery hair turned wasteling. The 2 horns coming out from the sides of his head elongated and they too caught fire. However, unlike his normal appearance, a 3rd horn protruded out of his forehead. The current aura he emitted was of a 3rd-stage saint, equally rivaling that of Axel in every sense. The blade of his greatsword also caught fire and exuded a threatening pressure. Before Khan could get a glimpse at Vanessa's transformation, Rathnar spoke in Khan's mind. Kid, you're in for a big show. Khan watched from afar how Hector's entire physique was now transformed as soon as he activated his Imperial Fireborn bloodline. He was now twice the original size, and his oppressive aura already hinted that he was comparable to at least a peak 3rd-stage saint. And finally, Khan got to see her transformation, and he was quickly transfixed after looking at her form. Flap! Flap! 2 massive wings made of pure and searing hot fire like that of some divine bird appeared behind her back. The burning sword in her hand had now transformed into a blood-red spear while leaking an intensely as well as terrifying aura. This time, the previous white and green armor Vanessa wore for the blacksmithing duel also transformed. Her entire armor set revealed some parts of her skin such as belly button and a large portion of her thighs, while many intrinsically designed golden and silver patterns stood out on her new appearance. There was a golden tiara that covered her forehead, while green and long skirts spread like drapes also gave her a sense of royalty in terms of appearance. The blacksmith in Khan was appraising the quality of her armor using his senses. Quasi-legendary. Her weapon and armor are all of quasi-legendary rank. Spoke Khan inwardly. Compared to her previous appearance when Vanessa fought as a sword maiden, the armor changed itself to aid her transformed style of a spearwoman. Even the gaps on her armor actually helped in rapid and flexible movements when fighting. Only a skilled craftsman like Khan could instantly notice these changes. "So beautiful," said Jugram in a worshipping tone after sensing the purity of fire expelled out of those wings on Vanessa's back. "She doesn't disappoint. Her control over the fire element is still the best I've seen yet," spoke Rudra in an affirmative voice. Both of them sounded as if they were this close to start worshipping Vanessa. "Pay attention, kid. Her fireborn bloodline is twice as effective compared to Hector despite having the same father," said Rathnar as he too noticed these changes in her aura. To the first emperor's words, Khan replied calmly, "Well, it's because her mother was a human. After her birth, Vanessa only had the appearance of a human, but her fireborn bloodline was a more prominent factor in her physiology. It kept becoming stronger as she grew up and hence, it's purer compared to her stepbrother without a doubt." But the next moment, Rathnar snickered and spoke in a conniving voice, "Kid, try to win her heart if you can. Although that Michelson clan girlfriend of yours is a 1 in a billion gem. This Vanessa isn't bad either. Plus, she's a princess. Who knows, she might turn into a useful chess piece later," said Rathnar, cunningness exuding from his tone as he shamelessly suggested this notion. "Shut up, old bastard. She's my friend. And I'm sure you're just trying to use her in case you somehow gain control over my body later. Do you think I'm a fool to blindly believe you?" retorted Khan. "Plus, I'm already committed," he iterated. "TCH, so obstinate. What's wrong with adding powerful women to your harem? Even I had 3 wives and 6 concubines when I was alive. Don't think about this matter so seriously. It's normal here, unlike your previous world," said Rathnar without a shred of guilt. "TCH, that's one of the genres I hate the most. No thanks, I'm a one-woman type of guy," said Khan as they focused on the battle instead. Unlike the last time Khan and the company saw Vanessa fight at the southern border of the Vulcan Empire where she could only summon a 100-meter-tall dragon head, when she roasted a legendary rank Jatvari monster alive, Vanessa could now summon 3 long dragons similar to the Asian culture mythologies Khan used to read in the novels. All 3 of these long dragons had short legs and no wings but were at least 200 meters in total length, while their bodies were made from condensed and scalding hot crimson red fire. Hector, on the other, had for summoned greatswords. Each one was 50 meters in height that attacked enemies from long distances and also defended his blind spots when he was fighting against multiple enemies. These greatswords infused with his bloodline completely made up for his disadvantage of a melee clan warrior as they covered both range and defense at the same time. Compared to Vanessa, Hector appeared stronger than her because his aura was comparable to a 3rd-stage saint while Vanessa's own saint pressure appeared to be that of a 2nd-stage saint. However, Hector's expression was full of amazement as he noticed Vanessa greatly suppressing her 3 opponents as she fended off their attacks and even forced them to retreat few kilometers back. "She's only using 1/3 of the bloodline while I'm using all of it. Yet she's already this strong. No way. Has she even surpassed Father in terms of potential?" he thought inwardly. Roar! Windstorms made with scorching fire appeared in the middle of the battlefield as Vanessa's dragons attacked her enemies and burned every place they struck. Whether it was the ground filled with wild grass or the tall trees, everywhere these dragons passed through instantly caught fire and smoke filled the surroundings as the battlefield went ablaze. Even Vanessa herself was fighting like a truly seasoned spearwoman and wantonly beat the hell out of Tamik, Edna, and Mykala, the 3 members of the hero's party. Previously, Vanessa was on the back foot because all of them were 1st-stage saints. But now that she was using 1/3 of her bloodline, she easily turned the tables on them. Forget a princess. Vanessa now looked like a warrior queen who could obliterate an entire army on her own. Even someone with great battle experience with powerful people during his life, Rathnar praised her fighting techniques and the way she was in control of the entire battle without leaving the smallest opening for her enemies. Stab! But just when the situation seemed like it was getting under control, a sudden calamity struck. Even Khan failed to see the sneak attack and had his eyes wide open in disbelief. Out of nowhere, a sword had pierced a tall fireborn's chest from behind. This sword belonged to none other than Axel, who struck when his target was engaged in a fierce battle while fending close-range attacks of 3 enemies at once. Before Khan and Vanessa could even grasp the situation, like a cold-blooded murderer, Axel killed Hector. A grim atmosphere ensued, and Khan, as well as Vanessa, were too stunned to speak, as both were rooted on the spot after Axel stealthily appeared behind Hector, who was engaged in a fierce battle with 3 enemies at once. Before the first prince of the Vulcan Empire could even react, the hero of fire plunged a sword into his back. Both of them were equally matched in terms of strength and saint rank already. But because Hector was distracted, Axel landed a decisive kill shot without any resistance. Khan quickly understood that this was the reason why Axel and the other saint beside him hadn't engaged in the battle. And now, only he and Vanessa remained, surrounded by enemies from all sides. Khan's gaze then landed on Azarog, who was recording the whole scene using an artifact. What the hell are they planning? Recording the murder of a prince? What's their angle? He wondered. Boom! At the very next moment, Vanessa attacked from the other side, instantly reaching towards Hector while Axel disappeared from the location. Hector's body fell from the sky but was quickly grabbed by Vanessa. The third princess noticed a horrified and indignant expression on Hector's face, his body as lifeless as it could be. "Damn it!" cursed Vanessa and looked towards the surrounding members of the hero's party. However, she was thinking with a clear mind and wasn't affected by her stepbrother's death. What worried her most was the death of an ally during the battle, and now, it was 1 against 8 people. She then looked in Khan's direction, who was still standing on the ground under the crystalline barrier. If I'm defeated, they will kill him too. I need to protect both of us and stall for time. But I don't even know if there will be any reinforcements coming. They must have taken every precaution beforehand, thought Vanessa as he quickly assessed the situation. Among all the 3 Imperial Scions, Vanessa had the most experience in terms of large-scale battles and fighting multiple enemies. Hector was more of a politics guy and not a warrior. Thus he failed to see through the sneak attack and fell in battle. Damn it! If he makes a move on Vanessa, I'll step in. All of you be ready. This battle will be ugly and might expose us, said Khan to his subordinates, because now, their situation was bleaker than before, with no certainty of life. Send it, spoke Axel, who appeared beside Azarog, the 4th stage Saint Fireborn. It will take some time, since it will go from many channels and finally reach them. What do we do about the princess till then? Iterated and asked Azarog. We stick to the plan, of course. We will capture her first. And then, said Axel as he grinned while looking at Vanessa. Next, his gaze landed on Khan, who was looking at the whole scene. I'll deal with him myself. Meanwhile, in the northern plains, a heaven-shaking battle ensued as 4 7th stage saints, who were just as strong as the 3 faction leaders of the noble factions in Rocco's empire, were now engaged in a gruesome battle with the emperor. Javi was now surrounded from 4 different sides while getting incessantly attacked by all 4 enemies, while his strength was suppressed to the level of a 6th stage saint. With the 3 fighter-class opponents, he was already in a dire situation. But after the Pope himself was revealed to be a 7th stage saint as well, he was only able to fend off while avoiding life-threatening attacks. Shwoom! Javi quickly dodged an 300 meters long violet-colored wind blade that cleaved through 10 kilometers of barren lands in just a few seconds. The speed of the attack was impossible to even comprehend for someone like Khan, who was but a 1st stage saint. Javi quickly appeared 2 kilometers away as he evaded the attack launched by Donatello, the dual-bladed spear user. But suddenly, a ginormous fist made with condensed world energy that sized around 100 meters in height launched from above as Raphael, the brawler-class saint, attacked Javi. Boom! 5 kilometers of area was instantly turned into smithereens, and nothing but a deep and endless pit remained in the ground. Huff! Huff! Javi barely managed to escape at the last moment and appeared 7 kilometers away from the point of impact. The burst of the attack made from world energy on a whole different level than normal saints could ever imagine. And on top of it, this wasn't even 10% of the real battle strength of a 7th stage saint. Swoosh! Swoosh! Clang! Clang! More than 10,000 blistering red swords and a massive 2-kilometer-tall metallic gray color launched them together at Javi was already on back foot. And this time, there was no way for him to dodge this attack move made by Leonardo, the Knight Fireborn. Damn it! Cursed Javi and quickly launched his own attacks. Soon, his legendary rank burgundy red spear made a thrusting movement towards these thousands of swords that sized 100 meters each. More than 20,000 blazing and highly condensed spears that were even longer appeared and faced the attack head-on. Hundreds of shockwaves appeared and broke through the sound barrier in succession as the two sides clashed and Javi's figure was flung across and crashed on the ground until he finally adjusted his stance after getting thrown 10 kilometers away. Although it looked like these saints were trying to harm Javi, in reality they were just tiring him out.
Javi,
I have good news, spoke Demiurge and quickly activated a projection artifact. A massive holographic screen appeared and soon showed a particular scenario of a battle. Nay! Javi's agonizing cry filled with grief resounded in the 20 kilometers of radius, instantly shattering nearby terrain. I'll kill every single one of you, and that bastard, I don't care if even Hetrax turns against me, I'll kill that bastard with my bare hands, shouted Javi as he finally lost his sanity. The next moment, he thought about Vanessa, who was still facing the hero's party by herself. As her father, Javi no longer cared and thought in his mind, if I use it, I won't live for long, but I must save her at all cost. He spoke to himself and took a drastic measure that would cost him greatly. But at this moment he stopped thinking about the consequences. He spoke in a grim voice filled with absolute wrath that sent shivers to all the 7th stage saints. None of you are leaving out of here alive. Javi let out the most threatening aura as his voice filled with bloodlust resounded across the battlefield. Just now, the Pope showed him the scene of Axel killing Hector, Javi's firstborn and eldest son. This revelation instantly made him lose his calm and he revealed his enraged face. Javi did not stand the ceremony any longer and forcefully activated his bloodline powers. The backlash was too great, and under the flame killer formation, his body was no different than someone falling deep inside the sea, unable to bear the water pressure. However, as soon as he saw Hector's death, Javi lost his voice of reason and went berserk. Boom! Rumble! Rumble! The clouds in the sky parted ways as a massive explosion of scalding fire destroyed everything in the 20 kilometers radius, and even the 1,000-kilometer-wide suppression formation flickered for a while. In the middle of the sky, a 1-kilometer-tall figure was suddenly revealed in the center of the explosion as the scorching flames subsided. I won't be able to keep using the forced bloodline transformations for long. I must find Vanessa as soon as I can. He spoke to him. As for the 4 7th stage saints, their expressions turned gloomy after seeing Javi's transformed figure. How? Didn't the flame killer formation seal his abilities to use the bloodline? Shouted Leonardo. Impossible. This shouldn't be happening. How the hell is using his imperial bloodline? Spoke Raphael, because they all could sense that Javi's rank suddenly rose to 7th stage saint rank despite the restraints of the suppression barrier. The ancient records never mentioned anything. Could it be he's using some sort of forbidden technique? Yes, that should be it, thought Demiurges. But it doesn't matter. He won't be able to maintain it for long. We will wear him down and then kill him when he's suffering from the backlash, suggested the Pope. Finally, the flames completely dispersed and Javi's figure became clear to all 4 of them. Javi was now a kilometer-tall white-haired giant with 6 horns coming out of his head. Previously, he had only 2 horns coming out from sideways, but now, 2 small horns protruded from his forehead while 2 long ones grew up in the middle of the head. Javi's entire body was covered in a blazing red flesh-like armor made of white bones as his hands grew long black nails. Even his eyes turned dark red with no iris in them while on his back. For gigantic white wings made of bones that spanned 500 meters each spread around him, while revealing his full killing intent. The very next moment, Javi summoned more than 100 blood-red spears, each one sizing 300 meters in length, made of those very flames that previously dispersed, and Javi divided them into a group of 25 as they attacked all 4 opponents with lightning speed. For the first time since their onslaught against the Emperor started, all 4 of the 7th-stage saints felt a sense of dread now that he transformed himself into this form. Crackle! Whoosh! Bang! Each of the spears, filled with densely condensed world energy, targeted the enemies like homing missiles, covering the distance of 20 kilometers in just a few seconds as they left only sonic booms and shockwaves in their wake. Javi was no longer playing around, going straight for the kill in his enraged state. Soon, the tide of the battle turned completely, and the 7th-stage saints who were previously suppressing him were forced to retreat at least 100 kilometers away, while constantly dodging the spear attacks, while using their own techniques and skills to fend them off. Their speed was so fast that even their afterimages formed a couple of seconds later after they passed through an area. Everywhere these fire spears passed through, the black and reddish soil was melting because of the heat exuded by each of them. Even a priest-class individual such as the Pope himself was having a hard time fending off these attacks and providing support for the other fighters at the same time. All of them understood that their previous tactic of hit and run or chipping out Javi's defenses would no longer work. And given their experience, all 4 of them became aware that if they didn't go all out soon, Javi will take them down one by one before his transformed state ended. And in the end, it will be his victory, and their 100-year-old plan would completely fail. On the western side of the battlefield, Javi quickly appeared in front of Leonardo, with his original legendary rank spear that was also transformed at this point and grew in size. To him, Leonardo in his normal size now appeared like a small mosquito, waiting to be killed. Slash! Without even giving the former a chance to react, he made a vertical slash. Shatter! A 400-meter-wide crevice formed on the ground after the Javi made the splashing attack and cleaved open the surroundings while trying to kill the Knight Saint. Swoosh! Leonardo barely escaped in a nick of time and had a haggard expression. If that beam of energy had hit him, he would have received a grave injury. And even if he managed to fend it off, his own armor and weapon would be greatly damaged. If Blackwell were to be present here in his Titan form, he instantly would have been incinerated after getting hit by those flames. Terrifying battle noises filled the northern plains as the fight between these mighty saints destroyed dozens of kilometers of ground in seconds. The clouds in the sky changed their directions from time to time just from the aftershocks of these attacks. In just an hour, all 7th-stage saints were in a miserable state. If not for Demiurge, the Pope healing them from time to time and granting them defensive buffs, at least 2 of them would be dead by now. Damn it! It should be him in our position. Why are we being oppressed by him instead? Said Raphael. All of them were now working together in a team formation because fighting individually would not help in protecting themselves from Javi. What do you all say? Should we use that ancient relic? Asked the Pope. All 3 of them instantly agreed as if they knew what Demiurge was talking about. Although it will halt our rank as saints for a century, it's still better than dying, said Donatello. All right then. Together we will use the Pope spoke with an aghast expression now that their hands were forced. Pandora's box. After being forced to retreat and gather in a formation to defend themselves as the transformed Javi thwarted their plans to kill the Emperor in a battle of attrition. Now, the Pope suggested a way to get out of their predicament and evade certain death. Because as things stood, the 100 kilometers of the battlefield was no different than a pit of fire because of Javi's constant attacks, even though his rank was similar to theirs. Forget about him getting weakened over time. It will be all of them who would fall in battle first. But as soon as the Pope suggested using one of the Church's most prized relics that was handed down from one Pope to another, they all agreed despite the repercussions of being unable to rank up for the next 100 years. Fireborns lived around 200 years on average. Even more if one was a high-ranked saint. And all of them were 7th-stage saints, 3 of whom purposely faked their deaths while the 4th one had been patiently hiding his new rank up for the past few years. Waiting for another century after they took over the Vulcan Empire was still a pretty sweet deal. But to do so, one had to stay alive. Thus, without even discussing for long, All of them instantly agreed. I was saving Pandora's box for the hero of fire to use after he became a peak saint. It could help him cross that final threshold and help him become a demigod. But none of it will be possible if we're also dead. Spoke Demiurge with a gloomy countenance, his expression showcasing his unwillingness, but none of them seemed to have any choice. This power is enough to help in becoming a demigod. But since 4 of us will be using it, it will help us raise our ranks only by 1. Still, it should be enough for us to kill him before he uses 100% of his bloodline ability. Spoke Leonardo, the oldest one among the 4 7th-stage saints, as his 1-kilometer-tall shield specter defended against Javi's furious attacks. All of them were aware that Javi was forcefully using only 50% of his bloodline. And if he wasn't suppressed because of the Flamer Killer formation, every single one of them would already be dead. Without further ado, Demiurge quickly summoned a massive treasure box with ancient insignias and archaic formations, and all 4 of them opened it together. Shrill! A high-pitched and terrifying noise filled the vicinity, and Javi, who was already a 1-kilometer-tall titanic figure, was forced to step back. Too much. So this is what a demigod is like. We are lucky that we're sharing it. Otherwise, even a 9th-stage saint would have easily died because this power is simply too much for anyone below peak saint. Spoke Raphael as all of their bodies were quickly encapsulated in divine golden auras. This was one of the biggest assets of the church and kept hidden from over 700 years, and now it was finally being used. An invisible barrier protected these 4 7th-stage saints, and even Javi couldn't break it with all its might. Not good. I need to kill them before their rank rises, thought Javi. He was an 8th-stage saint originally. Obviously he could tell the strength and density of world energy rising in them just by feeling it. Dang! A sky-devouring explosion occurred like a nuclear bomb going haywire, and even Javi in his transformed state was forced to retreat 50 kilometers away. And finally, when the battlefield settled after a minute, 4 massive figures that were 4 times bigger than his own appeared in the region. All of the 4 assailants had transformed into monstrous beings that gave off the auras of 8th-stage saints on their own. Donatello turned into a 4-kilometer-tall demonic figure with a skull for a head and had 4 black horns, 2 slanting downwards while 2 upwards. On his back, 2 bat-like wings that spanned half a kilometer each spread wide, while a long serpent-like tail was revealed behind his waist. The middle of his chest glowed red, as if a river of blood was running under it, and his entire body possessed the appearance of rotten flesh. His double-bladed spear also transformed into a massive 2-kilometer-long spear and glowed violet. On the other side, Raphael, aka the pugilist saint, turned into a large red monster with no eyes but had 4 oversized arms, while a lot of bone spikes appeared around the corners of his arms and shoulders. He too grew a tail akin to that of a lizard. Leonardo, the knight saint, was not averse to such terrifying transformation either. The shield he held transformed into a force field shield that had scalding fire in its core and appeared like it had demonic eyes in the center. The sword in right hand also became a 500-meter weapon that was made out of pure magma. Leonardo's entire body transformed into pure fire with no bones or any physical outlines, but instead, he had become one with the armor and the helmet he was wearing. He was now a walking-talking volcano himself. And finally, Demiurge also achieved a unique transformation by turning into a green-colored creature whose upper body was solid and looked humanoid in structure, but the rest of his lower half turned into a combination of pure fire and black fog, as if he was born from these 2 separate existences combined. Every single one of them was now as taller than many mountains on Earth, and their strength and ranks also rose by 1. In the Vulcan Empire, only the imperial family had the ability to transform into such grand and terrifying beings. But now, the 4 saints of the Church of Hetrax also managed to achieve that feat, albeit at a great cost. Javi, who was already running out of time, had a countenance of trepidation. The whole flow of winning just changed sides, and there was still no way to get out of this inconspicuous barrier. This was probably going to be the last battle of his life. He spoke in a tyrannical voice instead of cowering in fear, his tone completely firm and resolute. Looks like I have no choice but to go all in. After their incredibly enormous transformation that turned each of the 7th-stage saints into a being akin to a world calamity, Javi stood stupefied and also facing mental pressure. But he understood that he no longer had a choice. And now, his hands were forced to make a hard decision that could make or break his entire life and decide the outcome of this dreary battle at the same time. Because if he did not, these enemies who now were comparable to 8th stage saints each, Javi would die a gruesome death and soon, the church would take over. And his biggest fear was that Vanessa's life would be destroyed if he allowed the church to succeed. He did not wish to see the same fate as those innocent women who turned into Axel's victims befall his own daughter. Before, Javi was using a forbidden technique mentioned in the Imperial clan's ancient records that forcefully allowed him to activate his bloodline even under the suppression of the Flame Killer formation. But the downside of this technique was that the backlash from the suppression was destroying his body from the inside as his bloodline was getting burned up forcefully. He was already putting himself at great risk by accessing 50% of his bloodline in this state, but the possible outcomes in case he didn't were far more severe than just losing. Finally, Javi let go of his spear and ascended high in the sky. Only after reaching over 10 kilometers did he stop. "What's he trying to do?" asked Leonardo. "No, he's trying to activate his full bloodline," bellowed Demiurge, his new fire and mist form sending tremors in the surroundings as he spoke. Screech! An ear-deafening screech of a monster suddenly permeated the 100 kilometers. Just the shock waves that reached the ground instantly flattened the already destroyed battlefield. But as a result, even the Flame Killer formation was consistently flickering due to aftershocks. Hundreds of those massive 15 kilometers tall white pillars started flickering and fading as if being destroyed from the atomic level. Even the 4 ginormous 8th stage saints were thrown off 20 kilometers far like cannonballs, unable to bear the brunt of this aura expelled by Javi. If this battle was happening in a populated zone, dozens of millions would have already died and hundreds of kilometers of living zones would have been razed down just from these shockwaves alone. Finally, after the dust settled, even these ginormous saints felt like they were still not under the control of the battlefield. They already used their biggest trump card in the history of the church's existence. But Javi just pulled one over them again. He really did it. He achieved the perfect transformation, spoke the Pope in a bewildered tone. Even the formation is unable to suppress him for long. If we don't kill him soon, it might get destroyed in the process. Spoke Leonardo as he took the front in order to defend their team. Impossible. He really turned into one of the 3 primordial creatures, said Raphael as he revealed the name of the archaic creature that even the god-beast rock was said to be a direct descendant of. Simurgh. Screech! Another soul-shattering battle cry resounded in the surroundings, and Javi's final primordial creature transformation was clear as day to everyone. High in the sky, an 8 kilometers tall bird that was even a bigger world calamity based on its size flapped its 4 kilometers wide wings. Javi was now even taller than the frigging Mount Everest. This primordial bird creature had 2 heads, 2 wide wings and 2 legs with 300-meter-long talons. But its body was divided into 2 regions. The left side of the body was a combination of golden yellow and red, while the eagle-like head had a beak breathing out red fire. Even the eyes of this head expelled fire similar to a blacksmith's furnace that could melt solid metal. The right side of the body was a combination of blue and gray while emitting a dark blue fire from this portion of the body. And unlike the left side, this side of its body was expelling ice and clouds of it as if they were being created on its own whim. Javi, who had now completely transformed into an extinct species of the world, gazed at his opponents while emitting absolute and tyrannical killing intent. "Don't tell me. He's now a 9th stage saint," shouted Demiurge in complete disbelief as all of them sensed Javi's transformed aura. Soon, another heaven-shaking battle occurred. A plethora of unique and decisive battle skills were used by the 8th stage saints with impeccable teamwork. Hundreds of kilometers of space was devastated and destroyed during the battle no matter which side attacked. Javi not only had the advantage of rank, but the transformed form gave him too many powers. He now understood why god-beasts had the word God in them, and he had transformed into something that even exceeded their level. As the fierce battle continued for a couple of hours, Javi adapted to the enemy side skills, formation tactics, and carefully created openings using his new skills. Tornadoes and blades made of blue fire that not only burned everything to cinders but also corroded everything it touched in few seconds gradually started depleting all the mana and world energy these enemies had. Even a brawler class like Raphael couldn't directly engage in a head-on battle against Javi. Leonardo's defensive skills wearing down because of the red fire that was superior to his own and turned his skills against him after gaining control over the fire emitted from his body itself. As for Demiurge, there was no smug expression on his face. Because his transformed form after using the Pandora's box was half made of fire, and the red fire was greatly leeching off his own powers and using it against himself. The blue fire on the other end messed with the mist properties of his body and started corroding him from the inside. And finally, this whole situation led to what Javi wanted to see the most. An opening in the formation. Boom! Shrill. Without giving them a chance to react, Javi landed in between their battle formation as he gave a domineering look to all the four saints. Finally, it was time to kill. Javi in his Simurgh form was a terrifyingly titanic and monstrous bird-like creature, and even the 4 8th stage saints now couldn't defend themselves against his onslaught. If this was an open-scale battle between two empires, just the aftershocks were enough to kill tens of millions of people. Javi himself was capable enough to raise and pulverize thousands of kilometers of area and kill over 1 billion enemies easily after his transformation. And because of his primordial bloodline made him a being comparable to a 9th stage saint while forcefully gaining that much power against the suppression of the Flame Killer formation. Javi finally found an opening to make a decisive strike as soon as he landed in the middle of their battle formation. All 4 of the enemies were 4 kilometers tall in size, half compared to his own. But that also made them an easy target. Javi was now covered in blue corrosive flames controlled by the right side and the right head of his body, while the golden fire expelled under the command of the left head was stealing strength from Demiurge and Leonardo, who had become the creatures of fire after using the Pandora's box. For the first attack, Javi flapped his wings and attacked Raphael, the brawler saint who stood 10 kilometers away from him. This great distance was crossed by him in mere seconds as the world energy reserves in his body were tremendously vast and overpowering. Before Raphael could even attempt to retreat, both of Javi's talons grabbed Raphael's lower arms while the 2 beaks of respective heads plunged themselves into both his shoulders. "Argrrr!" wailed Raphael. The 2 different kinds of fires were burning him alive at the same time while the talons and the heads were pulling him apart with immense might. As for the others, forget attacking or helping their ally, no one could even come close in 2 kilometers proximity because of the firestorm covering his body. And right before everyone's eyes, Javi tore Raphael into 2 from the middle as he screamed, dying a horrifying death. Shock! Dread! The remaining saints were dumbstruck and had an aghast expression of fear. Damn it! We can't even leave. Otherwise, this barrier will break apart by itself. This bastard is even more terrifying than his grandmother, said Leonardo, who was the holy champion from the era when Javi's grandmother was the empress of the Vulcan Empire. But because of his words, one of Javi's heads turned to the Night Saint's side and locked his killing intent of the saint standing 12 kilometers away. In just a few seconds, Javi shot himself like a bullet and appeared right next to Leonardo as if he directly teleported in front of him. The following second, the golden head plunges itself into Leonardo's chest and started sucking in all the fire his body was made of. Even the once best warrior of the Church of Hetrax didn't get a chance to react in time. In the end, nothing but a colossal skeleton spine remained with no flesh or blood around it. Javi's golden head from the left side of his body could absorb and control fire itself. Hence, Leonardo couldn't even resist as he watched his entire existence being absorbed by Javi in dozens of seconds and died a helpless as well as pitiful death. Without even sparing a glance at the fallen enemy, Javi soared in the sky and now targeted the demonic creature with bat-like wings, aka Donatello. Donatello's attacks made from his world energy that looked like violet wind blades were quickly repelled by Javi just with a flap of his ginormous wings. He didn't waste any time and used both unique flames of his to simultaneously burn down Donatello's rotten flesh. "No! Spare me! A.R." An agonizing scream assisted with a plead for mercy. But Javi didn't even flinch as he granted Donatello a gruesome and terrifying death, while the latter's wails resound in the battlefield. With this, all the 3 fighter-class enemies, who were the big trump cards set by the church to kill him, were now massacred brutally. And finally, his furious eyes landed on Demiurge, the Pope who himself played the biggest role in destroying Javi's life and killing his family. With a flap of the 4-kilometer-wide left golden wing, 8 different fire typhoons appeared and soon surrounded the Demiurges from all different sides. And because of the ability of this golden fire to eat up fire and control it, Demiurge, who was now partly in green fire and mist form, was restricted from moving, stuck at the same spot. You killed my elder brother by selling him out to the enemy empire. You killed my father and my wife by destroying them from the inside using that poison. Now your death shall be the same. He transmitted his thoughts to Demiurge, who was bewildered and fear-stricken to his core. Javi appeared in front of the Pope. He forced the corrosive blue fire and started roasting the Pope alive. Roar! Demiurge roared like a wild beast under the extensive pain as the Emperor burned his body to cinders slowly. In his final attempt to escape, the Pope launched a terrifying attack. Boom! Javi's left golden head exploded from the attack, but the Simurgh form kept incinerating the Pope under the command of the right blue head. Even though he felt unimaginable pain, his anger and hatred kept him going as he was exacting revenge for the death of his father, brother, and wife. The most agonizing and excruciatingly painful torture took place despite Javi losing a head. But soon, Demiurge stopped moving as he helplessly watched his own body turn into dust from the inside. Just like that, the Pope, who wanted the Church to reign supreme in the Vulcan Empire, planning everything since over a century, finally lost his life at the hands of the Emperor. Crack! Crack! Thousands of cracks were heard in the northern plains like the crisp sound of glass shattering. Javi quickly noticed that the Flame Killer formation was breaking apart as soon as he killed Demiurge, who seemed to be the one controlling it since the beginning. However, Javi felt no sense of contentment or victory, because there were more urgent things to do. Without wasting another moment, Javi with his remaining head ascended high in the sky and spread his wings wide open as he flew in the direction of the eastern grasslands. Hang in there, Vanessa. I'm coming for you. Javi finally managed to kill off his enemies and turned out victorious at the expense of sacrificing his bloodline and life force as he turned into one of the primordial creatures named Simurgh. But even after avenging his family, he was still more worried about his daughter, who was surrounded by enemies, and hence, he quickly departed for the eastern grasslands of the Vulcan Empire. 3 hours ago, inside the 50 kilometers wide isolation barrier that sealed Khan, Vanessa, and now deceased Hector along with the hero's party, was a decimated and burning battlefield. Boom! Crackle! The 6 members of the hero's party were riddled with wounds and hard second-degree burn marks while seeping blood from many injuries. All of them were being healed using health and stamina recovery potions, while a massive and flickering protection barrier was constantly getting bombarded by massive meteor-like fireballs, each big enough to destroy a group of 1,000 soldiers instantly. The loud noises of the bombarding fireballs resounded and sent tremors in the 15-kilometer range. Hundreds of massive crevices formed in the ground, while thousands of trees and plants set ablaze as a gigantic flying creature hovered in the sky, creating and launching these fireballs at the hero's party incessantly. Khan also gazed at this enormous creature that was even twice larger than Oliver in his Thunderbird form. Khan, run away, you idiot. Their target is me. But they will kill you for certain if you stay. I will create an opening for you. Use it and leave, because I can't maintain this form for long. This bird creature transmitted its thoughts to Khan. An hour ago, after Axel sneakily killed Hector and sent the recording, Vanessa used 100% of her bloodline and transformed into a 1-kilometer-tall bird creature. Her head looked like that of a swan with a sharp and pointy yellow beak. 2 rainbow-like ginormous wings that spanned 400 meters were fully spread across the battlefield. A 200-meter-long red feathery tail and an overall iridescent blue and green plumage body akin to a peacock now flew high in the sky. On the border of the wings and the chest area was a thick layer of golden armor, part of Vanessa's original armor that too had transformed along with her. But even so, This form was not a fully developed form since the transformation had no legs or talons, as Vanessa was only a first-stage saint originally. After this transformation she achieved by using her imperial primordial bloodline, her strength and aura were comparable to a peak third-stage saint, while she gained the ability to summon massive fireballs and firestorms constantly with her newfound abilities. The moment I try to retreat, they will target me instead. And then you will be forced into taking a defensive stance instead of attacking them. It will give them opportunities to attack you. In the end, you will also lose your chance to kill them, and it will change the direction of the battle," replied Khan as he analyzed the situation. "Huh. How does he know of battle tactics so well?" thought Vanessa. All she heard from Khan was indeed the case. The moment she was distracted and lost the prerogative, they will turn into the losing side. Vanessa aimed to break this barrier and destroy the cross-axle held in his hands, which was the very thing keeping this barrier active. Otherwise, there was no way for them to escape. Other than me, Jugram and Rudra, possibly Blackwell. No one can stand this type of heat, thought Khan to himself after seeing the intensity of the fire released from Vanessa's attacks. As for him leaving, he could easily do so, but a blacksmith using a space law ability would risk revealing his identity. On top of it, Vanessa would be stuck here, left at the mercy of the hero's party after her transformation period ended. At this moment, because Axel and Azarog, who were a peak third stage and fourth stage saints respectively, had taken the lead, Vanessa was unable to suppress the enemy side and destroy the barrier completely. She also hadn't developed her primordial form properly yet and could only exert strength up to peak third stage saint, so even her biggest trump card couldn't turn the tide of the battle. Khan on the other end didn't intervene directly because from his understanding of the battle so far, their intention seemed to capture Vanessa without hurting her and not kill her like they killed Hector, whose corpse was placed on the other side of the battlefield. Although he could help using his dimensional law skills, none of it would go unnoticed by any parties because there were no weaklings here and the enemy side had fighters who were above by 2 to 3 stages. On top of it, Khan still hadn't seen Axel use any of his divine abilities or the divine weapon. He didn't want to waltz into the battlefield like an idiot, thinking he could win just because he had a plethora of skills. In the end, knowing your enemy's moves could help you dictate the flow of the battle, while overestimating yourself will lead you to certain death. Because of these reasons, Khan still hadn't acted out and patiently waited to gauge the enemy side's battle prowess, all of their skills and abilities, while deciding who would be the best to use against them. Another hour passed and finally, Vanessa lost her ability to maintain the form. The ginormous body started shrinking and a massive cloud of smoke formed around her body. "Go! Capture her!" shouted Axel, and the party members quickly surrounded Vanessa, who was completely weakened, barely able to fly in the sky as her world energy reserves were almost depleted. The party members activated 6 identical artifacts and trapped Vanessa, whose face was full of sweat, under a 1-kilometer-wide suppression barrier again. Boom! Crack! But as soon as it was formed, a massive 500-meter greatsword composed of 6 different elements suddenly appeared in the air out of nowhere and quickly struck the suppression barrier, instantly breaking it apart. "Looks like no reinforcements are coming in the end." A loud voice suddenly resounded in the air, and a man adorning a dark gray longcoat appeared next to Vanessa. "Let's not drag the fight than it already has," said this man, and a black greatsword suddenly appeared in his hand. He looked around at the baffled expressions of everyone, including Axel, and spoke in a domineering voice. "All right, boys. Let's get to work." In front of the weakened and out-of-breath third princess of the Vulcan Empire hovered a man with a gray long coat, white shirt, black undercoat, a black tie, and open-finger gloves. His hairs combed from the right side of the head, while his gaze was firm as his entire body emitted an aura of reality and dominance. In his right hand was a pitch-black greatsword that gave off a terrifyingly oppressive aura, instantly putting everyone from the enemy side on alert mode. Lucifer had now completely transformed after Throck reforged it using the Guardian Dragon's horn. Unlike before, it was no longer just a pitch-black greatsword with sharp edges and red magma veins spread across it. Now, there were multiple vibrant red outlines on both edges of the blade, while 2 small dragon heads were carved on the hilt, each of them appearing as if they were trying to come outside of the sword itself. The triangular-shaped edge of the sword was enough to quickly stab through anything, but what made Lucifer more terrifying was the two extra small blades following right behind it. If someone were to be stabbed with this greatsword now, not only will their blood follow after the blade was pulled out, but so will their flesh and bones with it. As for the central region, the design was intrinsically enhanced with dragon scales, while a visible stream of magma appeared in the middle of the blade and the guard. The two small dragons had their mouths opened and leaked some of the blistering fire of this magma. And finally, the hilt itself appeared as if it was made of pure magma as it glowed crimson red but didn't harm the user in the slightest, while the pommel also leaked a bit of scorching fire. This was Lucifer in its legendary rank weapon form. And just by pulling it out, Khan had warded off the hero's party from making any unnecessary moves as soon as the greatsword revealed its aura. Because this aura was actually a pure dragon's pressure. Previously, when Khan used the now perfected Dragon Strike attack, the strength in it was doubled just because Lucifer itself had upgraded and Khan didn't feel any burden on his body in the slightest. Compared to when he was only a semi-saint in Rocco's empire, Khan had allocated 5 doppelgangers to master his upgraded battle skills and techniques. One of them was tasked with completely mastering and perfecting Dragon Strike. And now it was no longer an amalgamation of different elements forcefully put together, but a perfectly balanced and blended version of 6 different elements such as fire, water, lightning, wood, earth, and wind in perfect sync, as if they were all in a harmonious relationship while incorporating with each other as part of a single being. Added with Lucifer's upgrade and Khan's own world energy, the Dragon Strike made a statement and instantly deterred the enemies from making a move. "All right, boys. Let's get to work." Axel and all the other members of the hero's party had no time to react or counterattack. Swoosh! Swoosh! First, it was Khan who suddenly appeared in their battle, unlike the time when he was only watching the whole battle from afar like a weakling with no powers or abilities to fight. And now, 7 more figures suddenly appeared out of nowhere, instantly forming a battle formation around Khan and Omega. Boom! Boom! Loud sonic shocks filled the 30 kilometers of the surroundings, as all of them revealed their dreary and oppressive auras in succession. All of these new arrivals were fully armed and equipped in their previous armors and gears they had since their time in Verlassen. It was the extra set Albestros had made for each of them using the Invimarak's body. Blackwolf floated in the sky at the front, creating the first line of defense as he fearlessly appeared between their group and the hero's party. Omega and Jugram appeared a few hundred meters behind him on the right and left sides respectively. Cyril and Armin appeared in the middle. The magician instantly cast a protection barrier on Vanessa, while the healer encompassed her body in a green aura, giving his best to heal her injuries and close the long and deep wounds she received during battle. Finally, Ronan and Oliver protected their backs as they appeared at the very end. The human and the Hawkman instantly brandished their daggers and bow respectively. Everyone from the enemy side was also flabbergasted, giving them an incredulous look as these people appeared out of thin air. As for Vanessa, Khan floated in front of her while the princess still had her eyes wide open and mouth agape. Among these people, she had only seen and knew of Omega and Jugram as saints before. Although saints were rare, the top 3 saint blacksmiths had 2 to 3 of them hired, so she was never suspicious about their origins. But now there were a total of 7 saints. On top of it, Khan was also floating in the air and probably made that tremendously terrifying sword attack that instantly broke the suppression barrier in just a single strike. Means he too was a saint and not a semi-saint as she imagined after the blacksmithing duel. However, Omega and Jugram were a bit familiar to them because they met before when the church sent them to create a scene in front of Throck's main company building. "Aren't these the outsiders hired to protect Oakenshield by the Imperial clan?" asked Tamek, the 3-meter-tall orc battle-axe warrior. "The space is already sealed here. No teleportation scroll should work. So how and when the hell did they get here?" asked Edna, the Succubus Enchantress member. "Oh, looks like they really don't know my real identity as Hero of Darkness," thought Khan, because they all associated his subordinates with the perfect cover of hired bodyguards they made for the company a year ago. But the main question still lingered in his mind as he asked himself, "Then why the hell was I kidnapped? While everyone was taken aback by the arrival of 8 new saints on the scene, Khan was still perplexed after showing his real rank because even after running a few simulations in his software aka the brain, he still couldn't find a valid reason about why he was brought along with Vanessa and Hector here. What am I missing? Should I try to extract more information from them? He thought calmly. All of you, be ready. There's only one third-stage saint. Rest of them are only first-stage saints, including that blacksmith guy. We can still kill them and capture the princess, ordered Axel, who quickly recovered from his shock and brought back his team's attention to the present moment. Khan, when did you become a saint? Asked Vanessa, her tone expressing her curiosity and worries together. No time. I'll explain everything later. First, we need to get you out of this place, spoke Khan. The enemy side didn't know his real identity even now, so he didn't need to intentionally reveal it either. Damn it! I have so many abilities to escape from here unscathed and without engaging in a battle. But I can't get her out without destroying that artifact Hero of Fire is holding. He thought to himself. As for why Khan suddenly decided to reveal his rank and decided to intervene at this point, although he could wait it out, there was a risk of Vanessa getting captured even if he hadn't exposed his hand. He wasn't willing to bet on her staying unharmed after that, because many artifacts could seal her powers completely after Vanessa was captured by the hero's party. Who knew what other plans they had? Even so, there was another reason that made him decide to step into the battlefield, that whilst in the time of peril, when Vanessa was running out of strength and was on her last straw, she still tried to create an opening to help Khan escape without caring for her own well-being. Khan wasn't the kind of guy to leave his trusted people behind, especially in times like these when they tried to protect him by risking their lives while having absolutely no reason to. Unlike those who only called themselves as friends only when things were advantageous and favorable for them, Vanessa had proved her worth as a true friend when the calamity struck, someone really trustworthy and reliable in the time of need. Khan always repaid kindness and loyalty 10 times as one of his mottos. And it wasn't going to suddenly change because the enemy side had 2 stronger fighters. Besides, he had already seen enough of the opposition side to know how to take care of them. As for Axel and Azarog, he had his own means even if the situation became unfavorable for him. Let's test the waters first, said Khan and commanded all the generals and Omega. Shing! Bang! Without wasting a single moment, all of them excluding Armin, was healing Vanessa charged at the enemy sides. Clang! Omega directly clashed against Azarog, the 4th stage saint, and pushed him behind instantly, stopping only after they created a distance of a couple of kilometers between them and the rest of the hero's party. Omega was so quick that even Axel only saw an afterimage a moment later after the dual-sword samurai passed around him and struck against Azarog. Sparkle! Sparkle! Shrilling noises filled as Omega oppressed the 4th stage saint, who barely reacted in time, completely forced to backfoot because he hadn't expected Omega to attack head-on. Defeating you like this has no meaning, said Omega as he forced down Raijin against Azarog's trident, and sparks appeared in between the 2 weapons. Be fully prepared, Fireborn. After that, we'll settle the matter, spoke the right-hand man and kicked Azarog, throwing him off 100 meters in air just with a simple kick. What the hell? How is he so fast? And why does he already have a physique as strong as a 4th stage saint? Wondered Azarog and recovered his stance. He was the strongest guy in the room based on the logic of ranks and levels, yet he was the one getting his ass slapped. Jugram on the other end engaged with the orc called Tamik. A giant's word and a massive battle-axe clashed against each other, and both of them instantly engaged in fierce combat of pure strength. Clang! Clang! Shing! Crisp sounds resounded in the air as both sides equally exchanged moves with their respective opponents. Khan also directly engaged in a battle against Axel, who used an epic rank sword. Nice sword, but I could have made it even better, said Khan in a mocking tone with a smile. This was neither Axel's divine weapon nor was it something noteworthy in his eyes. Khan could instantly tell that Axel didn't even use it often because of the crappy fighting skills he displayed while being pushed around by just a 1st stage saint. The Hero of Fire had his jaw dropped on because of surprise. This guy he thought of as a weak ant turned out to be someone capable of standing toe-to-toe in terms of physical strength despite being only a first-stage saint. For the next 10 minutes, all of them fought their own battles and retreated to the center. "So what do you all think?" he asked them telepathically. "They're equally matched," said Cyril. "They're good. Worthy to be called the best talented people of the young generation. They're really strong. But the thing is," spoke Jugram, "we're stronger if we lift the restriction on our bodies," replied Omega instead. Because in reality, all the subordinates had their 20 levels and stats according to their ranks lowered when they were in their human forms. Thus, during this exchange, most of them couldn't fight at their peak, just more than enough to play on even terms because they were not in their true forms. "I guess we have no choice but to get involved in this fight even though we have been dragged into a war we know nothing about." And finally, Khan gave them a command to equip their armors and weapons as he spoke with a diabolical smirk. "Let's show them who's the real boss here."